Good morning and welcome. Thank you for attending. I'm Glendora Porter. I'm a program analyst at the Disaster Lending, Communication and Coordination Division at the Office of Capital Access, and I'll be your host for today's conversation. Our goal is to provide you with valuable information, whether as a refresher or as a helpful reminder. We strive to ensure that our content is timely, relevant, and applicable to your current needs and understanding. Let's start off with a couple housekeeping items and follow up with our guests and today's agenda. Just as a reminder, this meeting will be recorded, so go ahead if you haven't already and hit that mute button for me. We want to keep things running smoothly. It helps with the sound quality when you hear the playback. To minimize distractions and keep focus on the presentation, we kindly ask that everyone keeps their cameras off during the presentation. Thank you for understanding. Before we begin, let me introduce Brent Motes, who is joining us today. Brent is a supervisory loan specialist from the Processing and Disbursement Center in Fort Worth, Texas. He is a subject matter expert and plays a vital role in disaster lending. Brent oversees several key teams, especially the reconsideration and reacceptance team. He is widely regarded as a go-to expert, both by the headquarters and district offices, as well as field offices across both the Eastern and Western regions. Thank you, Brett, for coming with us today. I also want to say thank you to our audience. Following the presentation that was sent to you, we received 10 thoughtful questions from you guys. We're here today to address each of them, and we want to be able to provide clarity and ensure everyone walks away with a better understanding. For public record, none of the following questions have been edited, altered, or rearranged in any form. They are presented exactly as originally submitted. So let's dive right in and get started. Brent, are you online with us today?
Yes, Glendora, I am here.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. These are the questions that we received from the SBDC network. First question, how will past borrowers, for example, Hurricane Ian and Milton, be evaluated when a future disaster strikes and they still owe payment on a previous loan?
Glendora, let me first say thank you for allowing me to be here today and answer these questions. We believe at the PDC, the Processing and Disbursement Center, that we're all a team. And so I appreciate the interest in the attendees on the call. For the question, how do prior disasters and the loans made on prior disasters, how are those evaluated when a disaster strikes and an applicant applies again?
Yes.
We do look at prior pay history. Um, we tend to look at it relatively liberally. If an applicant has scattered delinquencies on a prior SBA loan, if they have, if you can look at the pay history and see that if they fall past due, they try to catch it back up to date. We can generally work with those applicants. If they're currently past due at the time that we're processing a loan, but they don't have a long history of being past due, we can give them the opportunity to bring their prior loans up to date prior to moving forward with the current loan. If an applicant has a prior SBA loan, but they have more severe delinquencies, maybe they have a situation where they were a first payment default, never made a single payment, ignored collection activity, that could become more difficult to work with. But we try to work with disaster applicants because they are in need. This program is a different type of lending program. And we'll try to work with applicants. Sometimes it's more difficult, but most often we can work with an applicant if they can just bring their prior loan up to date.
Okay. Thanks, Brent. The second question, will there be an opportunity to refinance past loans into one where a future disaster strikes?
Unfortunately, no. Um, the, our loans cannot be used to refinance any government debt or obligation. And that includes prior disaster loans. So those loans must be held separate.
Okay. What happens when a new disaster loan borrower submits an application for a business they bought and did not know there was a previous disaster loan on the business? Perhaps they paid cash and did not do the correct due diligence. How do we handle those, Brent?
Yeah, so when I first read this question, what occurs to me through this question is there's a grievance here between the new owner of the business and the
Mhm.
past owner of the business. And we, as the SBA, can't really get involved in giving advice to the current owner over that grievance. But what I can say is this, the prior owner has done some things here incorrectly, right? It's not just a matter of business ethics, but they violated some of the terms of their prior loan with us. Obviously, from a business ethics standpoint, they failed to disclose a business debt to the new owner of the business, and that's where we don't want to get directly involved. But the prior owner has also in violation of the loan authorization and agreement that they signed when they took out that debt. The loan authorization and agreement, the loan terms require that the prior business owner notify the SBA, the servicing office, when there's going to be a substantial change of ownership to the business. So I would assume in this case, the reason the question's being asked is that that prior business owner did not make that disclosure to the SBA. The other thing to note here is that the prior business owner likely has a personal guarantee for that loan. The new business owner, if the prior business owner didn't go through the proper steps, does not have a personal guarantee on that loan. And so the prior business owner is in violation of what we would expect from them as the SBA on different levels there. So that prior business owner, when they sell a business, not only must notify or should notify the new business owner of the existence of that debt, but they're required contractually to notify us that the business is selling. If they took the appropriate steps and notified the servicing office of that change of ownership, the servicing office would have done its due diligence in making sure that that debt can either A, transfer over to the new business owner, or B, that it's paid in full through the sale of the business. So it's really, there's a lot of wrongdoing here, I think, on the prior business owner's part on this question, and they are in a violation of the loan terms of that prior loan.
I do have to agree with you there, Brent. So basically, we're saying know your business before you buy into a business. Okay, next question. If a business owner had previously applied for a loan, are the documents still in their records and available to use on a new application or need to upload everything again? So that sounds more like a system issue question. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is a system issue question. Since the beginning of last year, we've been working in the Universal Lending Platform, ULP for short. It's the system that the entirety of the SBA is migrating into. Unfortunately, that system does not allow shared documents between applications. If you're an applicant and you submit a new application today, there are uploads that the loan portal that you use as an applicant are going to require that you upload before that application can move forward. And there's really not a way to share those documents between files. So we need to encourage all applicants to upload those documents. And just to know that the ULP, when we're working with them through the loan portal, it is an interactive process. They shouldn't make any assumptions about being able to share documents between files. They really need to follow any instruction provided to them through the loan portal And even if it seems repetitive, um, or if it makes common sense that they've already provided the document, they really do need to. The portal itself is automated, and it does not know of the existence of the document on a previous application. So unfortunately, it can be a little frustrating to an applicant at times, but as long as they know up front that they have to continue to upload those documents, that can ease their frustration to some extent.
Okay, moving on. With the number of variable Airbnb and other rental properties, what is the best advice for these business owners to prepare to apply for a loan? A client had to change the type of ownership and do a HELOC because SBA would not disperse funds in a timely manner. What's your thoughts on that, Brent?
Well, I think this is really two questions. I don't know that the second part of this question directly relates to the first part.
Correct.
If you're an applicant and you're applying and you own a VRBO or Airbnb type business, there's really no additional steps to take to make your application. We treat those businesses the same as we treat any business. Um, the second part of the question really has to do with the time period that it can take to fund these loans. And getting back into the ULP process, it is a very interactive process for the applicants, and the applicants need to be made aware of that. Um, we have had situations occur in which the applicant had tasks to complete after loan approval, and the tasks are not completed in a timely manner. And until the applicant completes their task through the loan portal, they may just be under the impression that their loan is being delayed, when really they have a task to complete. So when I look at this question, what I really comes to my mind is we need to encourage the applicants as they come in, encourage them to realize that this is a very interactive process. They need to review their loan portal on a regular basis. If the loan portal is telling them they have a step to complete, they need to complete that step. And if they do not complete those steps in a timely manner, there can be delays in funding the loan. I would assume that in this case, the delays were probably due to an applicant not realizing that they had tasks to complete, and that is more than likely what caused the delay. But if whoever asked this question, if I'm incorrect there, if they want to reach out to me separately, I can maybe better answer that question if I have more specifics on where that question is coming from.
Brent, you brought something up where I know it's not part of any of these questions, but I think just to make sure an understanding is there. When an applicant has a task to complete, does the system kind of send them like a message or something to let them know that the task is there? Because if they're not reading their messages, how else would they know?
The system does send them a message. Um, I imagine what happens in some cases where some of these applicant tasks are delayed is that to the applicant, the messages are just noise.
Okay.
For me personally, I'm privileged to get about 7,000 spam emails every single day on my personal device.
Mm-hmm.
Slight exaggeration. That was my attempt at dad humor there, Glendora.
You're
But
fine.
I think we all get spammed, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we as consumers sometimes are in the thought process that we don't open emails, we don't open portal messages, we expect it to be spam. But I think the message that we need to give the applicants is that the messages coming from the portal during your loan process are not spam, and most often they're going to contain important information that needs to be reviewed and responded to.
Okay. All right. So, what happens to a disaster loan given to a restaurant and the owner decided to close the restaurant and just to operate either a catering company or a food truck? Hmm. Come on,
Well,
Brent.
yeah, They borrowed money and we expect to be repaid. I would encourage that applicant to notify their servicing office of the change in business. And if there's anything that the service office needs from them at that time, I would encourage them to provide that documentation. But the closure of a business, especially given the fact that there's personal guarantees on most of these loans, that business closure doesn't automatically exempt the applicant from making payments on the loan. We're still going to expect to be repaid, and we still are going to use every collection method available to us to collect payments in most cases. So they just need to speak to the servicing office. Any type of change in business after they take these loans, I would encourage them to speak to the servicing office and see if there's anything the servicing office needs from them to be able to satisfy any conditions of their loan.
And as long as they're still in the same type of business and still making revenue, we still expect to get paid.
Yes,
Okay.
even if they change the business entirely, we expect to be paid
All
unless
right.
there's a bankruptcy or something along those lines that happens. But these are not grants. These disaster loans are expected to be repaid just like any other loan.
All right. I heard that. Okay, let's go on. In previous disasters, we had a few clients approved for a loan and they decided to take less than the approved amount. Though it was accepted by SBA, the paperwork making the change official took months. How has this process improved? Sounds a little more system to me, but what do you think, Brent?
Yeah, and I don't know when that scenario took place. We have for the last year and a half been working under the ULP, the Universal Lending Platform, where I feel like things have improved. There's a lot of automation in the current system, whereas that did not necessarily exist in the prior system. So hopefully that question comes from a scenario that happened over a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
And hopefully, at this point in time, this being in the ULP has helped improve some of those turn times.
Okay. I think this one's also a system as well. I had a client who was applying for an idol, but the website was asking for physical damage evidence, and he couldn't move past this point. What is the remedy for this?
Okay. So some applicants are confused by the portal process. And I don't necessarily blame them, but even when they are applying for a standalone economic injury disaster loan, the portal is going to take them through a process where they declare their damages. When we get to the point of the portal process, the point of the application process where the applicant declares their damages, there is a way to say at that point that they just want economic injury. If they just select economic injury and hit the next button, they'll move on through to the next step. Applicants can be confused by that because there's also areas on that screen where they can plug in physical damages. They just need to ignore that part of it and just select economic injury and next, and they'll move on.
So, if I got stuck in this process, shouldn't I be calling customer service or maybe sending a message out to, let's say, loan officer, case manager? What's your
Yeah, so
thoughts?
there's two ways. Once they have a portal account established, which they would at this point, there's two ways that they can contact us. They can either pick up the phone and call CSC, the customer service folks, and those people can, over the phone, walk them through the next steps. The portal also has what we call portal messages. So it's just like any other business would at this day and age, where the applicant doesn't even need to pick up the phone. They can just send a message to the SBA that's going to be worked by that customer service team, and they can just ask the general question. I seem to be stuck at this stage. This is the reason I think that I'm stuck. And they will usually within a pretty fast turn time, usually within 24 to 48 hours, they'll receive a response. And those responses are usually fairly well detailed. Um, and so I would encourage applicants instead of just freezing or stopping at that point to send that inbox message or call customer service who can help them out and walk them through the rest of the process.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're coming up to our last questions from the SBDC network. So let's go. Suggestions on the best way to support applicants who visit the SBDC and SBA mobile units, but don't have all the required documents ready for immediate upload. What do we say to that, Brent?
Well, we just need to advise them that it is an interactive process, that the ULP is going to be consistently sending them messages and requiring uploads from them. And they don't need to have the documentation ready today. And they don't need to upload it at the SBDC. The system will allow them to log in using their cell phone, tablet, laptop, desktop computer. And so there's really various ways they can access the loan portal and upload the documents that they need to upload. Um, they don't need to feel pressured to upload those documents while they're there in front of you that day at the SBDC. Now, there are some situations in which there's a clock ticking, there's a time period that we allow them to upload a document. But even if they can't upload the document within that specified time frame, we will allow them to ask for, and if they don't upload it within a specified time frame, the loan application might withdraw. But we have a very easy process available to them to ask for reinstatement of that loan or reacceptance of that loan, at which time they can upload the document. So we try to make it as easy as possible on them. And this is another area where they could reach out to customer service, either through the portal, through an inbox message, or by phone, and get some advice from the SBA concerning their specific issue.
Okay. Now, Brent, sometimes I have to make an appointment to come see you. I can usually tap on your door, but you're such a busy person. So, who do we contact when clients have issues we can't resolve? Brent Motes offered to be a point of contact, but didn't supply any contact information. So, what are we supposed to do, Brent?
Yeah, Glendora, I think they caught me. Yes, you're absolutely right. I am one of the key points of contact with various offices, headquarters, the DVCs, the FOC, field offices, you name it, I got it. And so I am always available to try to help people with questions. But I would always encourage to reach out to me or another member of the management staff only when other avenues are not working out for them. So I would always encourage people to reach out to customer service first, and then reach out to me personally if customer service is not being effective or not understanding the issue, and then I can always jump in and help. But my email address is just simply brent.motes@sba.gov. I respond best to emails. I tend to look at emails first every day, and then later in the day I get around to Teams messages and phone calls. So try to email if you can. If you email, the reason I prefer email is that if I am having one of those days where I'm extraordinarily busy, I can forward that email to another staff member who can try to answer those questions. But always start with customer service. And if you're not getting what you need from customer service, then reach out to me and I'll make sure that if I can't help you, I'll get it to somebody that can. Um, Yeah, I think I'll leave that at that point, because if I was going to give you some other manager names who might be able to help out as well, but they're really in the same boat that I am, and if I kick it out to another staff member, is probably going to be somebody working under me, who's very effective and very good and could help you.
All right, that sounds fine to me. All right, Brent, thank you for answering these 10 questions. I am going to now open it up for a couple follow-up questions if anyone has any pertaining to this same subject matter. And let's go ahead and open up the floor.
And Glendora, there are some questions in the chat function too.
Okay, Laura, if you want to go ahead and read it, because I don't have that screen
Sure.
open right now. Thank
No
you.
worries. So the first question we have here is idle loans in chargeback status, i.e. uncollectible. He says he's been making payments and he has tried to contact SBA but is not having any success. His credit status is being affected by this. What should he do in this situation?
Yeah, so generally speaking, our loans are not reported to any type of credit agencies. It would be unusual that his was. So I wouldn't think that his overall credit rating would be truly impacted, although he may think that it is. And he really needs to just continue to reach out to the servicing office that is working on his loan. And he can either call them, through the loan portal, he can get their phone number, or he can send a message through the portal that can be worked by that servicing office, trying to bring that file up to date. And it's really the servicing office that needs to work on that and work with him through those type of procedures.
Thank you, Brent. How does a past decline loan affect the future application?
It shouldn't, and it really doesn't. In fact, if anything, it may help the applicant because if they were declined in the past for a certain issue, they might know to resolve that issue before they apply again. Um, but we don't decline any applications due to the a decline on a prior application unless that decline on a prior application has to do with fraudulent activity. And in those cases, those prior declines may impact future applications.
Okay, this question builds on that. When working with a client with a past decline disaster loan, what is the process to get past declines cleared to allow new applications to go through? Will this client see anything in their portal?
The declined application is settled. There's nothing really to do in that regard. Um, Yeah, I don't understand where that question is coming from. It's no different than if you applied 10 years ago with Wells Fargo for a credit card, but they declined that credit card application. And here you are 10 years later, you have a different financial situation and you apply again. That prior decline should not impact the current application. And like I said, unless there's some type of fraudulent activity on the prior loan, in which case, they need to try to deal with that. We do see some issues with uh, specifically some of the prior loans that were made during COVID for the COVID idle loans. And in those cases, if they have a suspicion of fraudulent activity on those loans, they need to reach out to the CESC, the COVID Idle Servicing Center, to try to clear those issues up. At this point in time, if we suspect that an applicant intended to commit fraud on a prior application, there's really nothing that they can do to clear that up outside of proving to us that they did not intend to commit fraud on that prior application. So they might have to work with us or the CESC to provide documentation to prove that there was no fraudulent intent.
Thank you, Brent. The next question I see is regarding the CSC and kind of some longer than normal wait times, and that's from Richard. Richard, I'm happy to talk with you offline about that, but just so everyone's aware, and by the way, I'm Lori Rowan. I'm the acting director of the Disaster Lending Communications Division. So we are working very diligently with the CSC, and the CSC is hard at work making sure that they have an active team. And From my understanding, some of those longer wait times have been reduced. But again, I'm happy to talk with you offline, Richard, about kind of some of the limitations we're having. But we are working through all of the web messages we're receiving, as well as the phone calls on CSC.
Okay, Lori, is there any more questions before we move on?
I did have a quick question.
Okay.
Actually, there's two quick questions. So the first one is because the application portal for both Hurricanes Helene and Milton are now closed. I have several clients who have either requested reconsideration or put their applications in at the last minute. How is the response time for processing those applications going? Is the first question.
Okay, you want us to answer that one first? Brent, you want to
Yes,
take
please.
this one?
Yeah, we're at a point where our disaster activity is at a minimum. Generally, at this point of the year, it's at a minimum, so that actually helps improve response time. If you have an applicant who is trying to submit an application past the deadline and past the grace period, then by all means they can still submit an application, but they have to be able to explain to us why the application is being submitted so far past the deadline. To start that application process, they can reach out to customer service, and customer service can help them submit that application over the telephone. The applicant no longer, once they're past the deadline, they no longer have access to submit the application themselves through the portal. They must work with customer service.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And then one other quick question. Can you just take a minute and explain the additional funding for the mitigation, such as, for wind mitigation, for AC unit? My understanding is that the client or the applicant has to be approved for a loan first and then can go back and ask for additional funding. So can you please clarify that process?
Yeah, so they have to first be approved for a loan containing physical damages. It can't be a standalone economic injury disaster loan. They must have been physically impacted by the disaster. We don't really have the ability to add mitigation at what we would call original processing or the applicant's first time through. And so we will approve the initial loan with physical damages. Once they are working with their case manager, they can mention to their case manager that they are interested in mitigation. They are expected to be able to provide us documentation to demonstrate what the mitigation is for and how much that mitigation measure is going to cost. Once they do that, we'll open up what we call a loan modification, which can look to add mitigation as an additional source of funding for the loan.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because I know with the information that's provided, it's a little bit vague, and I tried explaining that to a couple of small businesses, and so I greatly appreciate that information.
It's my pleasure.
Did we have any more questions, Lori, on the floor, on the chat?
We just got another. Can the mitigation option be used to fund whole home generators?
Yeah, so our policies in the last few years surrounding what mitigation can be used for have really loosened up quite a bit. It really is the determination of our loss verification department. I would think on the surface that whole home generators would most likely qualify. But it's really the call of our loss verification department at the time that the applicant makes that request. I just hate to promise anything up front and then have them get a different story from our loss verification team. But there shouldn't be an issue with that particular issue.
Okay, I see we have one more question. Can a client contact customer service if the reconsideration date has expired?
They can, although what I would encourage them to do in that case is just send a portal message. After the first decline, an applicant has 6 months to request reconsideration of their loan. After a second decline, we give them an additional 30 days to ask for what we would call an appeal, a final appeal. So we give them plenty of time to ask for reconsideration. Um, but some individuals, because of what may be going on with their lives or the rebuild project or what have you, do have to ask for those loans to be taken in late. We do have the ability to do that, but the applicant has to reach out to us. We're going to ask them to explain to us why they're making their request late. And more importantly, if they're making the request late, we want to know if they're making the request that we have a strong opportunity to approve that loan. So they may need to explain to us why the prior decline was an error, and this is the documentation that they can provide to overcome the issue. But we can definitely help them out if they reach out to us through the portal.
Okay, we had another question that popped up, Brent. Can you please speak to what should happen with insurance proceeds? That is, insurance company sends a check to the borrower. What should borrower do? And under what conditions can borrowers keep the proceeds to continue their recovery?
Well, these loans are made in order to try to get money out on the streets as fast as possible. There is, in the loan authorization and agreement, there is language that would require the applicant to, uh, use the loan, any type of insurance proceeds to pay down the loan if the loan is already made. We consider insurance in most cases to be what we would call a duplication of benefit. The old thing that I heard when I first hired on is that, we're not making you a below market disaster loan so that you can take your insurance proceeds to go on a vacation to Disney World or go on a cruise or anything like that. This is disaster recovery. You're expected to use your insurance recovery towards your disaster recovery. And if we get out there in front of the insurance, we expect you to use that insurance recovery to pay down our loan. The only instances in which we'll allow an applicant to keep the proceeds of their insurance and maintain our loan is if that insurance recovery is coming in for something other than what we're lending for. So maybe we're lending to rebuild the applicant's building, but the insurance recovery is for damaged fleet vehicles. As long as we're not lending to repair the fleet vehicles, that's not a duplication of benefit, and the applicant does not need to use that to repay our loan. So they need to be fully aware when they're signing our loan documents what the loan is going to. It's clearly spelled out in the loan authorization and agreement. And if they receive insurance funds to help with those same items, they need to make us aware, and they need to use those insurance proceeds for pay down of the loan.
Okay, thanks again, Brent. Before we close, we're just trying to wrap up to stay on time. Is there any other questions out there that anyone have while we're here? All right. So again, I
And
want to thank,
oh,
did we have one more, Lori?
no, so sorry, Glendora. If anyone in the SBDC network does have any more questions, please feel free to email them to Glendora or myself, and we can kind of keep track of some of the questions that are popping up again. And my email is Dolores, DOLORES.rowan@sba.gov. But we're happy to assist if there are questions that come up ad hoc in general. We're
Yes.
not going to talk about specific applications, but we definitely will address broader questions.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and keep moving forward, and we want to encourage applicants and borrowers, if accessible, to use their My SBA portal for secure messaging. They can send a message through the My SBA portal, and the contact is for that would be lending.sba.gov. The phone number for customer service is 1-800-659-2955. So again, we want to thank everyone for participating and appreciate your time because I know it's valuable. So again, thank you, SBDC Network, for having us today. That concludes our presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to be here today, and I hope you found the information valuable. I'm Glendora Porter, along with Brent Motes and Lori Rowan, and we want to thank you and have a great day. We will make sure that you get this recording. So thank you again. Bye-bye.